Hello my dear children, I am Roshni from LearnerHub, the free learning platform, and today I am here with the fourth video of the video series on Natural Resources Class 9 Science, and in this video we are going to learn about soil. How is soil formed, what are the different qualities of soil, and we will also touch upon agrochemicals. So are we all set to go? Let's get started.
Soil again is very important because it is a rich source of many important nutrients which are needed for growth of plants. So soil is a reservoir of essential elements. Soil is an important resource that decides the diversity of life in an area. That's because soil is a rich source of several minerals. Now the question is, from where do all of these minerals come into the soil? So the first thing that we can think of when we think of soil is plants, because we plant them on the soil and soil provides all the minerals that they need. So let's try to understand from where do these minerals come into the soil. So we will discuss this under soil formation. Now, these minerals which are now present in the soil were actually present in the outer crust of the earth. So if you look at the structure of the earth is made up of different layers. Inner core, so core itself is divided into two parts, inner core and outer core. Then you have the middle mantle and then you have the outer region which is the crust. So this outer surface or the outer layer of the earth is rich in minerals, and these minerals are now present in the soil. So basically these minerals are present in the rocks which are present in the outer crust of the earth. Now let's see what happens to these rocks. Now due to the sun, the rocks get heated up during the day. Now when the rocks heat up during the day, what happens? They expand. So during the daytime, the rocks get heated up. As a result, they expand. Perfect. Now what happens at the night? So at night time, the rocks cool down. So what will happen when they cool down? They will contract. Now, the problem is that the amount of expansion and the amount of contraction is not the same. So maybe it might have expanded more and then it contracted slightly, or it might have expanded slightly but then it contracted a lot more. So the rate of expansion and the rate of contraction is not the same. As a result, what happens? As a result, like it is something like this. If you take an object, you expand it a lot and then you contract it a little, or if you expand it slightly and then you contract it a lot. So when you do this kind of uneven contraction and expansion, as a result of this, cracks develop on the rocks. Now what does the cracks indicate? So presence of crack indicates that now the rocks can break down into smaller pieces. So the moment cracks develop in the wall of your house, what does it indicate? It indicates that now cracks are there, so gradually the wall might break down into pieces, right? So the same thing happens here. The cracks develop on the rocks and gradually the rocks break into smaller pieces. Now, how do these rocks break into smaller pieces? So here water also plays an important role. Now sometimes very fast flowing water, these water might enter into the cracks of the rocks. So when the water enters inside the cracks of the rocks, for example, let us say that this is a rock. Okay, so it developed some cracks like this because of uneven contraction and expansion. Now water entered inside these cracks. Now when water forced themselves inside the cracks, what happened? The cracks got widened up. So the next step is that the cracks widen up. Now when the cracks gradually widen up, what will happen? The rock will break into smaller pieces. Right. Secondly, when you have fast flowing water, this fast flowing water carries the rocks as well as pieces of rocks to different places. Now, these pieces of rocks actually lead to the formation of soil. So, soil is nothing but those pieces of the big rock. So, it has all the minerals that the rock had. It is just that now it has it in a powdered form. So now the flowing water carries the rocks or the pieces of rocks to different places. As a result of this, soil is found at different places. So it is not that soil is present only at one area. So soil got carried away to many different places. Wind has also played an important role as far as carrying away of the rocks is concerned. So flowing water and wind, both of these have together kind of taken away the rock pieces or the rock particles to various places. Therefore, the soil which is found at a particular place, its parent rock might be at some other place, because they have got carried away to different places. Similarly, there are certain living organisms like lichens and mosses. Now, these lichens or mosses, they generally grow on rocks and they release certain substances that cause rock surface to powder down to form soil. So basically, they release certain substances that help in conversion of rock into soil. So they help in breakdown of rocks. So soil is nothing but bigger rocks broken down into a powdery form. So that is soil. And what helps in their breakdown? Primarily uneven heating by the sun, and along with that, flowing water, wind, lichens and mosses, all of these support the formation of soil. Now the next question is, what determines the soil quality? Now, not every soil can support every type of plants. In fact, depending upon the texture of the soil, depending upon the depth of the soil, depending upon the color of the soil, we decide what kind of plants will that soil support. So what are those important parameters which decide the kind of plants that a soil can support? So the first parameter is humus content. What is humus? Humus is nothing but decayed living organisms which are very rich in nutrients which are needed for growth of plants. Now, whenever living organisms die or any other insect or plant parts die, they are all buried into the soil. So inside the soil, their decomposition take place, and these decayed living organisms form humus, which increases the fertility of the soil. So presence of humus make the soil more porous. So it makes the soil more porous. What do we mean by that? That means the soil with more pores. Since there are more pores, therefore the soil is more aerated. There is space for air to penetrate inside. There is space for water to penetrate inside. So obviously the soil fertility will improve. Second factor is nutrient content. Now, mineral nutrients in a soil depends on the nutrients that were present in the parent rock, because soil is formed from rocks. So whatever nutrients were there in the rocks will be there in that soil. Now, a soil might be rich in a variety of nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, etc. Now, different plants need different minerals in different amounts. So, depending upon the content of nutrients in a particular type of soil, we can decide which type of plants would be suitable for that soil. Third factor is depth of the soil. Now, certain plants need shallow soils, whereas certain plants need deep soils. So when you talk about depth, so the depth can be less, wherein we call them shallow soils. The depth can be more, wherein we call them deep soils. Now certain plants, for example, grasses, ferns, they do not need very deep soils because their roots do not go very deep. So grasses, vines, ferns, they need shallow soils. Whereas if you talk about most of the shrubs, so they need deep soils because their roots go deep into the soil. So depending upon what kind of plants or depending upon the depth of the soil also, you have to decide what kind of plants you should grow on that soil. So humus content, nutrient content and depth of the soil primarily determines the quality of the soil. Now, when we talk about soil, we mostly talk about minerals, and we say that plants need minerals and soil is a reservoir of minerals. But the question is, why do plants need minerals? So, plant needs minerals primarily for growth, like for example, as I spoke about nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. So these are some of the macronutrients. Macronutrients means those nutrients which are needed in larger quantities by the plants. Similarly, there are certain minerals, maybe calcium, magnesium, which are needed in smaller quantities and therefore called micronutrients. But the baseline is that both of these are very, very important for the plants. Besides that, tissue repair. So something went wrong inside the plant. Some part of the plant underwent some issues. So repairing those tissues again needs some additional energy. So from where will the additional energy come? It will come from the minerals. It will come from the nutrients. Reproduction. So plants need to reproduce. So reproduction again is a basic metabolic process. So reproduction also needs a lot of energy for that particular organism to perform. So reproduction also needs minerals, and minerals come from the soil. Metabolism, the basic metabolic processes inside a plant. For example, inside human beings, there are many different metabolic processes like digestion. We eat food, so the food needs to be digested. So for the process of digestion to take place, our body needs a lot of energy. So inside the body is doing a lot of work. Similarly, we breathe in. So for the entire process of respiration that is taking place inside the body is again doing a lot of work. You talk about circulatory system, wherein all the things are transported to different parts of the body. So there also the body is doing a lot of work. So in a similar case, inside a plant also, the transport of food, transport of water, preparation of food, there are so many metabolic processes which are involved, and to do all of them, the plants also need minerals. So these are the basic processes which take place in a plant, like growth, reproduction, metabolism, and for all of them they need minerals. Now since the plants need so much of minerals and nutrients for its growth, now these days for commercial purposes, just to increase the yield of the crop or to increase the productivity of the crops, what is done? Some additional chemicals are used in agriculture to enhance the food production. So to artificially increase the production of food, what is done? Some extra chemicals are used in agriculture. For example, the insecticides, pesticides, fertilizers, all of these are additionally applied so that the food production can increase by huge amount. So these chemicals are known as agrochemicals because they are used in agriculture. So agro, and they are all chemicals. So agrochemicals. But as we have discussed before also, that though they might increase the food production, but overall they have a negative impact on the environment because they in turn can pollute the soil, they can pollute the nearby water bodies, and therefore it is definitely not very advisable to make too much use of these chemicals. Now, what is done to enhance the crop production? So we enrich the soil with the nutrients in the form of manure, fertilizers, and we also use insecticides and pesticides to kill insects and pests that might harm crops. So that's what I was telling, that firstly we want to destroy or kill all of them which hamper plant growth. For example, insects and pests might eat up plants, so therefore they might hamper plant growth. So what we do, we kill insects and pests by putting insecticides and pesticides. What do these manures and fertilizers do? So manures and fertilizers, they increase the nutrient content of the soil. Now as I was mentioning, that soil is rich in nutrients like potassium, sulfur, nitrogen, etc. So just to increase the content of all these nutrients in the soil, what do? We additionally put these nutrients into the soil, either in the form of manure or fertilizer. So when we talk about manure, manure is a substance that increases the soil fertility. Now when you look at the process of preparation of manure, you would actually feel that manure is something which has an overall positive impact because manure is prepared from decomposition of animal excreta and plant wastes. So manure is basically obtained from wastes of plants and animals. So that's great, right? Because till now we had been talking about how to control air pollution, how to control water pollution, and we found that most of these plant and animal wastes give rise to pollution. Now, if the wastes can be utilized in a nicer way, where the wastes can be decomposed to make manure, which in turn is again helpful for the growth of plants. So in that case, we are actually recycling the plant and animal wastes. So that's a nice thing to do. So that means manure is a good thing because it kind of recycles the plant and animal wastes, and at the same time, it also increases the fertility of the soil by increasing the food production. So what is manure made up of? It is made up of organic matter plus nutrient. And these extra nutrients are what we are looking for. So what is its function? So its function is to improve the overall soil structure. That means it increases the water holding capacity of the soil. Now, if the soil is able to hold good amount of water, then what happens? Then the plant gets as much water as it needs at any point in time because the soil is holding the necessary water. It helps in drainage. It also avoids waterlogging. So if it doesn't allow too much of water to get kind of locked in one particular place, because that becomes harmful for the plants. So that means usage of manure has more positive advantages associated with it. So when you talk about its advantages, it is non-toxic, it is not harmful because it is nothing but the decomposed plant and animal wastes. It is eco-friendly because it is not harming the environment. In fact, it is helping the environment. It is helping the environment to get rid of the plant and animal wastes. It is a recycled biological product. Right? So otherwise plants and animal wastes would have been just dumped here and there. So we would have been looking for ways to, kind of decompose them or to dispose them. So this way, with this process, all those wastes got utilized as a different product altogether. Next is fertilizer. So fertilizers are commercially produced plant nutrients. So these are basically chemicals, and these chemicals are nothing but the nutrients which we directly add into the soil. For example, if you want to add whatever, let's call say potassium or phosphorus into the soil. So you just buy a fertilizer which is nothing but the phosphates or the potassium, and you just add that directly into the soil. So these would be nothing but, they are nothing but chemicals. So they result in higher yields and healthy plants. So if you compare the result of manure with fertilizer, you would see that application of fertilizers give better yields because you are directly adding that nutrient into the soil. So obviously the output is better in this case. So if you look at this picture, on the left hand side you see a field which is starved by lack of plant food, whereas on the right hand side you see a field which is nourished on phosphate and lime. So phosphate and lime, these are nothing but the nutrients, and they have been added in the form of fertilizers. So in this case you see there's so much of greenery on the right side, whereas the left side is like there's almost nothing on the left side. So that way with fertilizers you can actually improve the yield to a large extent. But when you talk about the advantages and disadvantages of fertilizers, they actually have both the phases. For example, if you talk about its advantages, it provides nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium to the soil. Therefore, it results in higher yields if given in proper dose. So how much ever amount is required, only apply in that much amount so that you get good yields of crop. But if you apply it in excess, then it might pollute the soil, first thing. Secondly, if fertilizer is applied immediately before rain, then what might happen? Then it might cause water pollution, as we have seen. So rainfall is one way of irrigating the field. There are other ways also, but make sure that you do not apply fertilizers immediately before irrigation. Because if you applied fertilizers and then you irrigated the field, then the water will wash away all the fertilizers and take it to the nearby water body, thereby causing water pollution in that river or pond. Excessive use of fertilizers can spoil soil fertility because organic matter and microorganisms are harmed, because as I said that these fertilizers are nothing but chemicals. So if you add too much of chemical into the plant or into the soil, then the soil fertility will get adversely affected. So when we are using fertilizers, we need to make sure that we are using it in proper dose. So if we use it in proper dose, in that case we will get very good output. At the same time, we will not see much of its negative sides. But if we use it in excess amount, in that case it will, one thing is it can cause water pollution, second thing is it will also spoil the quality of the soil. So the next topic would be insecticides and pesticides. Now, how do they harm the soil? Because just now we learned that insecticides and pesticides will kill the insects and pests which harm the plants. But they can also kill the non-target organisms. So target organisms are the insects and pests. So anything other than insects and pests are the non-target organisms. So basically, what are these insecticides and pesticides? They are some poisonous chemicals which can kill insect and pest. So since they are anyways poisonous chemicals, so they are also capable of killing other organisms. And that is what happens. So even though its job is to kill certain insects and pests, it also ends up killing a lot of other organisms also. So excessive use of insecticides and pesticides can also lead to soil or water pollution, because too much chemicals into the soil will spoil the soil fertility, and also too much of chemicals, if followed by rain, like you applied insecticides and pesticides and immediately there was huge rainfall, in that case these chemicals might get carried away with rainwater and then pollute the nearby water body. Can adversely affect the food chain. So what do we mean by that? Now let's say that the soil has too much of insecticides or pesticides, that is too much of chemicals. Now there are a lot of insects or organisms which feed on the soil particles. For example, earthworm is one such example. So the earthworm will feed on these particles which might have chemicals, because the soil has so much of chemicals. Now this earthworm might be eaten up by another creature. For example, the grasshopper eats the earthworm. So what happens? This earthworm actually contains those chemicals. So when this earthworm is consumed by the grasshopper, it can also cause diseases in the grasshopper. When this grasshopper in turn is eaten up by a bigger bird, so the bird is also eating an organism which is kind of infected with chemicals. So this can also impact the bird. So therefore the entire food chain gets impacted. Therefore it can destroy the soil ecosystem, because in soil also, like the way in water we have huge aquatic life, huge amounts of plants and animals live in water. Similarly, there are a lot of animals which live in the soil. So if the soil itself is polluted, or if the soil itself is loaded with so much of chemicals, then the entire soil ecosystem will get spoiled. So therefore, looking at the advantages and disadvantages of manure, fertilizers, insecticides and pesticides, we can say that organic farming would be the best option. What is organic farming? Farming with no or minimum use of chemicals, because we see whenever we make use of chemicals, even though temporarily the crop yield or the crop productivity improves, but in the long run it is not good, because it is harmful to the environment. So in organic farming, we try to use minimum fertilizers and maximum manure, because with manure we really do not have any negative impact. But with fertilizers we do have negative impacts. Like if fertilizer application is followed by rainfall or irrigation, it can cause water pollution. Similarly, if fertilizers are used in excess, that can also spoil the soil quality. So, but with manures, there are no disadvantages associated with it. So therefore, manure used should be maximized, and fertilizer, insecticides and pesticides use should be minimized. Healthy cropping patterns. The third thing that can be followed is healthy cropping patterns. That means there might be certain crops which grow well in a particular season. Like we have learnt about the Rabi crops and the Kharif crops. So the crops which grow well in that season, maybe that time we can have one round of that crop. Then the next season, which is not suitable for that crop, in that next season we might plant some other crop which is suitable for that season.
So children, I hope you found these videos useful, and do make sure that you watch all the 8 videos of the video series on Natural Resources Class 9 Science, and I am sure these videos are definitely going to help you. If you have a feedback to share, do let me know in the comment section. I would be more than happy to hear from you. I will meet you all very soon with a new video with a new topic. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.